The same life that is bringing you very good things is sometimes bringing you challenges. You have this positive and this negative. You cannot separate them. They are the two faces of the same coin. Life is about making decisions, about making choices. You will need to make many decisions every day. Choosing a career in science, in art, locally or internationally, or in the NGO, or in government, or military, or in corporate, all are options. Intrinsically, none of these options are good or bad. You should not be afraid of making a decision. You have to try to match what are your expectations. The ability to discover that things are not granted. I have never taken for granted anything, especially when you are working in corporate. That's very important, that you open your eyes, that you don't take anything for granted, that someone is presenting you some data, some idea, etc., and you don't discard it or you don't accept it automatically. You really evaluate the things, you really ask questions, perhaps you ask for more information, and then you can make better decisions because you are not biased. Okay, in one direction, positive or negative. And this is good for hiring people or for making technical decisions or for marketing purposes. So be always very humble, don't judge the people, and just try to learn. Okay? And to ask questions. When something happened to you, go back to your colleagues or friends and the company and so on and say, why do you think this happened to me? Why this person react that way? And this other person might give you explanations and tell you why. Sometimes there will be friction. Sometimes there will be misunderstanding. Don't take much on your own pride. Take on the communication, on the results for the project, on the results for whatever initiative you are trying to implement or deploy. Let pride aside, and if there is a friction, a misunderstanding, let the other person blame on you or complain, and you said, I'm sorry. Even if it was not your intention, even if in reality you don't think it's fair that the person is complaining on you, but don't fight that point, because in the long term, people will recognize you a person with the ability to really go and talk with executive people, with people working at the shop floor, with people working in China, with people working in Europe, etc. And that gives you also the advantage of having a lot of contacts in the organization. And then you are a very valuable person to be moved to any other position, because you know the people, you know where you can get your information, you get support, and you are recognized. When you do a career, you have to have a value, you have to invest in that value, and you have to grow that value. Life is an opportunity. Life should not be pain, even if there are painful moments. But it's like the inspiration has to come from the joy to live. You may find this in a more religious way, in a less religious way, in a more family-related thing, in a more work. But for me, there is a joy in living. For me, the first thing is you have to dream it. You have to fancy it. You have to really think on all the good things that are going to happen to you, that you are going to enjoy. You have to charge your batteries, because the process is going to be long. There is going to be some disappointments. This process is going to be tough sometimes. So you need to have those batteries fully loaded. Few companies are going to offer you to be sent to China, Nigeria, Australia, or whatever. The first day, if you don't have a network in the company, and if you don't know the culture of the company, because the value of sending someone to those remote locations is not because he's very smart. It's because he already knows the people in Houston, for example, and the processes and the culture of the company. So you enter in an international corporation, you learn their processes, their lingo. Going a bit on my Korean experience, the people told me in Asia, the time is circular. I couldn't understand what they meant about the circular. Europeans, basically, we are linear, okay? And even we think that things are white or black. There are no grays or no things like that. When I was living there, I could understand, because my company was in a joint venture with a Korean company, and there are some frictions and some negotiations. I could appreciate how Koreans were managing the time, very different than how my French colleagues were managing the time. French were always imposing deadlines and trying to even negotiate against those deadlines, whilst my Korean friends were saying, well, if this topic is important, if this decision is important, let's put time aside. Let's dedicate as much time we need to understand to make our decisions, to consult with other people. So really we're saying there is not an urgency. We are not going nowhere. We are going to be here. They have this understanding that you are here, that whatever decision we make today, we can make it tomorrow if it is important to wait till tomorrow. Other thing important, the habits to distance. You touch the people, you shake their hand, or Spanish we kiss 2 times, French they kiss 3 times, things like that. While in Asia, you always keep the distance. All this you learn it, and you have to be always trying to learn. Yeah? And if you make mistakes, the people laugh at you and the people forgive you. No one is considering that you are doing that with bad intention, but you have to keep learning, because after some time they expect that you learn, and they appreciate when you learn how to behave with them. My personal tip is about reading. Anyone who knows me, I always suggest books and offer books as gifts, and a book is kind of the gift that I prefer always. There are many expressions that you may learn on a book that you don't understand. So when you go there, you have really to open your eyes and be very open to understand what is happening there. You have to look to the people, understand how they express joy, confidence, embarrassment, how they are different. I mean, I was surprised how different are even physically the Koreans, the Japanese, and the Chinese. So all these things start to grow your mind. You start to learn things. You start to realize how simple you were before because you were not getting all this data. And the only way to get to that knowledge is just the critical thinking, the empathy, the strategic thinking, the ability to look at things from different angles, being exposed. Don't think that the international life is about money and big apartments, chauffeur or whatever. It's about being really integrated in the local culture. And what you learn and you can use a lot in corporate life is about empathy and about communication. You learn that you have to communicate or over-communicate. I have been working 2 years ago with the teams across India, China, South America, Russia, definitely Europe and United States. You have to ask the things several times. You have to put many things on written. And when you don't understand, you have to ask to repeat. When someone doesn't understand, you have to be very careful and repeat using different words, because sometimes the people don't get one of the words of your question or your statement, and then you have to try to tell the same idea with different words and being very patient. Okay? You move slower, but it's very strong, the opportunity to work with people around the world, okay, with different skills and with different backgrounds. So you have to be not judgmental, not making assumptions, using whiteboards, being empathetic, I insist, okay? And one point, letting the other people to have the last word. No one sent anyone for the pleasure of sending one guy to a third country. And sometimes the people have the value, but they don't have the profile to be sent in this kind of experience. So if I will be choosing who to send abroad, I will choose the guy who has the value, that experience, expertise, managerial ability, and then I will find the guy who has at the same time the willingness, the curiosity, the readiness to be exposed and learn and come back and be patient, because otherwise if one of the two fails, you are wasting your money. You have to build your value. You have to see what is your value and also try to find the opportunities that fit there. There is another thing important for people is how you feel about security and about the group. Some individuals, they like to be part of the group. They feel secure being part of the group, having habits, being in the same neighborhood or same city, talking to people who resemble them. And that's perfectly normal. I would say perfectly natural. There are some other people that they feel too much pressure from the group because they like to think different. They prefer to have more space. Sometimes the move to international career or abroad are also coming from that. Very important. Be humble. Understand always you are the unfit. I used to have some colleagues when I was in Korea, European colleagues. They were most of the time angry and pissed with the guy of the hotel, with the guy of the shop floor, with whoever in a restaurant, because they couldn't understand him. It was not problem of the guy of the shop floor, hotel or restaurant. It was the problem of my colleague. The colleague was the one who couldn't speak Korean. He couldn't express himself with the body language that Koreans would expect, etc. So be humble. You are the one who are out of place. You are the one who has to understand you are the one who may be acting awkwardly. I was 3 times with the chairman of Honeywell, at that time David Coty. I met him once in India, once in Czech Republic, and once in the United States, for 3 different reasons, but always in a group of 8-10 people for a dinner. But I can sit in front of a chairman of a 40 billion company and have a normal conversation. My mom always taught my sisters and me that we are not more than anyone, neither less, and I have never considered myself less than anyone, not more. I speak English, Spanish, and French quite fluently, and I have several years of German, Italian, speak some Czech, some Korean, even Albanian. So for me, it's talking with one guy. We need to put this together, talking to other guy, bringing the people together, putting documents, coming back, making things happen. The strategic initiatives is not that much about budget or timing. It's about making the things happen. There are 2 things important in business. One, as I said, critical thinking, and the other thing is value generation. For my company, is generating value for the customer. If 1 hour of my developer costs $80 or $100, and I cannot generate more than $100 of value on my customer, my business will die sooner or later. And if I can generate 200 or 500 or 1,000, I will have a business always. When you are doing something as an individual, as a company, is that you understand the value equation. You understand that you add value and you get something in return. This is the basis of capitalism. Capitalism is the cross of the curves of the demand and the offer. If you don't offer something that has more value to the other person than what he's going to give you in return, there will not be a transaction. I have been very proud to see how my business have not been impacted at all by this situation. My company, my colleagues are delivering more than planned to our projects, because some of my colleagues are telling me, can I work on this project during the weekend? Do you mind if I do some few more hours? I said, no, I don't have problem. The customer will be happy if we speed up. My Strategist business is working. We are still on the macro trend of digitalization. Technology is going to keep evolving at an incredible speed. We have a lot of brains around the world working, and we have plenty of computational power that is even accelerating that. We have reached apparently certain ability of miniaturize, but then we are starting now to talk about quantum computing and other things. So I think technology is going to evolve very fast. We are going to have the ethical challenges always of how to use the technology, but what is clear is that you cannot become an expert for a single technology. You will get obsolete very quick. I have colleagues already studying IT like 30 years ago, and they got some jobs when they finished college, but after 5 years, those that they didn't recycle onto managerial positions or learning new languages, they were obsolete. You risk that when you choose a career in technology, that if you don't understand that technology is going to be changing, you can become obsolete. 10 years, I don't think that we are going to see autonomous cars. Okay? I think we are going to see enhanced assistance for driving. We may see trucks or cars moving in dedicated lanes, and during that period of time or in the highway, they may be autonomous or semi-autonomous. Mostly they will be guided by a remote authority that will tell every car how to move. I don't see any concern, I don't have any concern about artificial intelligence taking the power of the world, but I see that artificial intelligence is going to help us making more decisions. Doesn't mean that more data makes the things better. You see these days, this is the first pandemic that we have more data than ever in history, and still there are other reasons why we cannot have the right data, or the people are hiding, or the people are reusing the data for saying something. So we are going to have more powerful tools, but still we will have to solve problems, and still we will need a human portion to do the thing. Don't trust your data. Analyze your data. Ask questions to your data. Challenge your data. And only when you are sure that your data are good for a certain goal, then use your data. Many times data are wrong, are biased, missing something, there are mistakes. So be careful. The people is telling data is the new oil, and it seems like we can put everything on the data and trust everything. I think that the judgment, critical thinking, this value is going to be always very important, and we have to do judgment. There are hundreds of thousands of years before us and after us, and we are here, and there is for me, no other reason like to try to be happy, and to be happy doesn't mean to be greedy or lazy or whatever, but just the opposite. Use your time, be efficient in your time, having experience, having the opportunity to be with people. Some people will depart before you depart. Some people will stay here when you leave. So for me, the inspiration is enjoy every day, enjoy challenges, and enjoy comfort when there is comfort. Life at the end of the day is making choices, and as you don't know what will happen if you made a different choice, so you keep going and you try to enjoy. And enjoy is work. I mean, life is wonderful, so just use it for enjoying it and for making life also enjoyable for the people around you. That will be my takeout from this session.